Hello everyone, this is ChakaWhat here, and this is Kif Croker, and today I am going to be presenting to you my review of the second season of Disenchantment. Disenchantment is an animated Netflix high fantasy comedy drama created by David X. Cohen and Matt Groening, who also created generation-defining shows such as The Simpsons and Futurama. So I reviewed the first season almost exactly a year ago, give or take a few days, which honestly is kind of weird. I feel like everything's kind of going in a cycle. But anyways, between now and then, I have just reached this peak appreciation for the show. I rewatched the first season a whole lot, and quite honestly, I love this show dearly. I loved the second season. I love how the story is going. So I'm going to talk about a few characters and then go from there. Also, no, Kif did not get a head tattoo. At C2E2, I don't know if you remember, but I got to meet Maurice LaMarche, who voiced Kif, and also voiced Calculon, and Morbo, I think that's his name. And in this series, Oddval and Levo and everyone, so he signed Kif for me. Kif is one of my most precious stuffed animals I've ever had. I love him so much. But anyway, let's get on to these characters. So first I have Queen Dagmar. Voiced by Sharon Hogan, Dagmar is Bean's mother, who was revived at the end of the first season by Bean, and was the true person behind the attempt to poison Bean's father, King Zog. Dagmar is stunning and strong and crafty and incredibly talented at sorcery, and she's also revealed to be the sister of the three strange Merovians, Cloyd, Rebecca, and Jerry. Dagmar is very mysterious and quite an interesting villain, I'll be honest. Like, while we did learn a lot about her this season and for the past few episodes last season, there's still so many unanswered questions about her and her family and this mysterious debt that they have to hell. And I'm just really eager to learn more about her character. She's very easy to dislike with her know-it-all attitude and how she treats Bean. Though there was one really funny moment, I'll say, in the first episode where Bean and Dagmar, they're sleeping and there's not a lot of room, so they're in the same bed, and Dagmar is snoring and wakes Bean up, and Bean tries to wake up her mom, but it fails, and I'm like, I've lived this situation so many times with my own parents. I get it. Prime Minister Oddval. Oddval is genuinely one of my most favorite characters in this show, and definitely my favorite side character out of the main trio. He is, as I said, voiced by Maurice LaMarche, and even though I did mention him quite a bit in the previous review because of how touched I was by his character, I wanted to give him more of a spotlight because he's become really pivotal to the plot. So Oddval is the Prime Minister of Dreamland and works incredibly closely with King Zog. He is very cunning, very intelligent, and also a member of the secret society called the Seekers. In the first season, the Seekers were introduced as more of kind of a harmless religious sex cult where Oddval can be free to be the sexually promiscuous man that he is with his partner, Sorcerio. And I really, really liked that part of the first season. I thought it was really nice to give Oddval that part of him. However, in the second season, we've been shown that the Seekers are much more powerful. They're much more sinister. They control the kingdom kind of underground. And an important line I think Oddval says when speaking with the Archduchess about allowing the citizens of Dreamland to perform secular works in their only theater is he says, "The difficulty lies in discerning between what is good for the king and what is good for the kingdom." It's such a Game of Thrones-y kind of line, something that you think, God, what's his name? Lord Varys. Lord Varys is one of my favorites. It's something you feel like Lord Varys would kind of say. I literally just made that connection. I don't have that written down at all. But, I don't know, it's just, part of it is probably because he's voiced by LaMarche, but Oddval has just proven that there's more than just a third eye beneath that hat. And I really eagerly await to see if he truly turns out to be an antagonist or if he is justified. We will see. So the season begins with Bean being spirited away by her mother to Meru, where she learns that her uncle and aunt, Cloyd and Rebecca, have been watching over her, and that Dagmar's true intentions are far from noble. Bean is able to reunite with Lucy, who was captured by her family, and the two come into contact with Elfo, who is, lounging around in heaven, because he died last season, by the way. I don't know if you remember that heartbreaking moment. So, in Dreamland, King Zog has been left completely alone amongst all his people who have been turned to stone. Everyone has a goal, Zog wants to find food, and Bean and Lucy want to reunite with Elfo, which I will say they eventually do. So I don't want to give away too much because this series is incredibly story-driven, and just experiencing it with a fresh mind is so incredible. Sometimes I will look up things when it comes to shows. I want to know what's coming. I want to have something to look forward to, but with Disenchantment, I never look anything up. I always just... I watched the first episode before I went to Disney with my family, and then I came back and I watched the rest. It was so good. It was a good way to unwind. And I loved the second season so much because it had so much progression with the characters. And while there were some parts that did drag when they tried to keep the comical situations around, I just thought that it was so good. And I want you guys to watch it so that you can feel that too. And it wasn't that the comical situations weren't funny, because for the most part they were. It's just that at this point I see Disenchantment, I beginning to see this show less and less as a comedy. And there's so much serious storytelling going on that when they inject a funny, it's like, wait, what about that? We were just talking about that. That was something bad. It's like when your main quest is to save the end of the world, but you do all the side quests to go to the mall and get 10 rubber ducks. Other than that, though, it's a very strong show, which I'm sure you can tell I adore with all my heart. Parts I liked. Okay, one of my favorite things about Disenchantment is the animation. It is so pretty. The Simpsons had good animation. Some of it could be really aesthetically pleasing. Futurama got to do a little bit more with their huge, backgrounds with the city and planets and all of that. They got to be really, really creative. And with Disenchantment, it's just they've gone full in. A lot of the backgrounds are painted or hand-drawn, and it's just so pretty. It's a gorgeous show to look at. And the colors, oh my god, the colors. I'm going to get into a part later when I talk about it because, yeah, it's so pretty. And the voice acting performances are so good. I love Eric Andre so much, but I had no idea he could do that with his voice. He gives Lucy so much character. When Lucy is sad, you really just feel that. And it's just, everyone is doing such a good job. I'm so impressed with everyone. And going back to Lucy, in the first season I liked Lucy. I thought he was a really fun character. But I didn't think he'd be one I would come to love. I'd just be like, yay, I'm glad he's around. I really like him. He's great. Now I'm genuinely emotionally attached to that character. He has just proven that he can be amazing. And I'm so glad that they did that for him. Alright, we're getting into a bit of a spoiler territory. I just want to let you know. But another favorite part of mine was God. God was voiced by Phil Lamar, who I also got to meet at C2E2 quite a while ago. And he did, when I met him, he did Hermes Conrad for me and Ratbag the Coward for me from Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War. And he's just one of my most favorite voice actors. And when his God is so funny. And the way they wrote God is so great. I love that one of my favorite lines from God was, I created they before I created he and she. Like, God says non-binary rights. I thought that the reunion between Bean and Lucy and Bean and Elfo were so cute. It was just such a heartwarming. Each reunion fit the relationship between the two characters, especially Elfo and Bean. That just... Oh, I almost cried a little bit. It was just so emotional and so well done. It's like, after everything these two have been through, even though they have so many rough patches, even though the way from hell was rocky, from hell, they're still happy to see each other, and they love each other. It's so great. I liked Una. Queen Una returned, and oh my god, they made her so good. Like, I liked her in the last season. I thought she was a cool character, and I loved her design, and I loved where she was from. I thought all that was really neat. But she gets to go be like a badass pirate. It's so fun. They did everything right with her. And even though I'm really sad to see her go, I'm glad that they wrapped up her story so that Una could be happy and free. I think that's the most important part for her. I loved also with that the pirate ship was originally run by Levo, which is one of the elves. And I liked what they did with the elves this season. I liked how they had them coming out into the world so they wouldn't be all, stereotypical happy-go-lucky. I mean, they still were that, but we got to see a lot more of Elfo with the elves. And I think that when Elfo is on his own, it's good to have him with his stories with the elves because that's important to his character. And I think that was just a good setting to put him in. I liked that Elfo was so nice to Bean's little brother Derek, because everyone is really mean to him, but Elfo was super nice. And that episode that really centered on Derek was okay. I mean, I remember it. I remember everything that went on. It wasn't a super special episode, but it was good, and I just think it's nice to have Elfo being nice. And I liked one of the episodes. Bean wanted to have a hobby, so she started writing, because she has had a lot of life. And I liked that they finally gave Bean this normal female friend. Because, one of the big things about feminist stories is women being friends with women and not always talking about men. And they did that for Bean. And her friend is really cool. And I really hope that we get to see more of her because she's great. And I love that it was like in a coffee shop. Like, it was just such a modern... It was kind of a modern principle set in a Renaissance-y, magic-y time. And I thought that was good commentary. And I liked how even it also, called up the question of privilege. Bean is a princess. She can do a lot, but still, she is a woman in times where women were very much discriminated against and treated like property. So I'm glad that there was that balance. Like, you can be privileged but still be disenfranchised at the same time, depending on the factors of your life. Like, I am totally privileged. I'm white. But at the same time, I'm also LGBT. So, there's that balance. I'm privileged because I'm white, but I'm disenfranchised because I'm LGBT. Oh, and I'm insane. Did I mention that? But anyway, here is where I was talking about with the colors. One of the episodes, it was called The Electric Princess. I believe it was episode 9. Bean goes to a place called Steamland. And I actually looked up, Steamland was hinted to be existing from episode 1, where in the background, if you look, you can see a Zeppelin flying in the air. And when she goes to Steamland, it is just so beautiful. The music is fantastic. It's so whimsical and pretty. And Steamland has really great Futurama vibes, but if Futurama was like steampunk and all that. And it was a really good episode, I think, because it was good to see Bean out on her own. And Steamland is such like a progressive place. You can tell she loves it because women are allowed to do all of these things, and it's all about science and modern medicine. And I know that I've seen that some people don't like that Steamland was included because it takes away from it being a high fantasy story. But I think that the inclusion of Steamland really just makes the world in that richer. I mean, Cohen and Groening have built a very interesting world. And I'm just so happy to get to learn about it, because it's so cool. And yeah, the episode with Steamland was cool because it also leads into another part where I really liked. She was brought to Steamland by a guy from there, and he's like, Bean, I really like you. I want to make you one of my special assistants. And she's like, yeah, that's what I say. That's something a guy says to me right before I punch him. I'm like, way to go. Shooting down sexual harassment in the workplace. Also, I noticed that in this season there was an increase in gayness. Just like, it's such a woke show, I'll be honest. Disenchantment is SJW and I love every second of it. One of the things I noticed is they're starting to explore the notion that Bean is bisexual. Because I really do think she is. Like, when she's in Steamland, she gets picked up by this woman, and like they're riding on this steam horse together, and Bean hugs her and like leans against her. And Bean also like gets massaged by mermaids and all that. And I think that that is really cool, by Icon Bean. There we go. And of course, Oddval and Sorcerio. There's a bunch of moments where Oddval is being like a supportive boyfriend to clueless Sorcerio, and it's just so cute. Those two are so great. And speaking of Oddval, just him being so clever. There's so much with him, the Archduchess, the Sorcerio, and all the Seekers. I'm just incredibly excited to see what happens. I actually have a theory that Oddval might be working for Steamland, because Steamland was sent to Dreamland to kill Zog. And obviously Oddval does not want Zog around. But also, the guy from Steamland, he had a gun. And everyone was trying to figure out what to do. But Oddval knew exactly what to do with the gun. He knew how to hold it. He even got kind of scared when Sorcerio put his mouth on it. So I kind of feel like Oddval is in serious cahoots with Steamland. Maybe he's even from there. We've never got an explanation for why he has 3 eyes. I mean, it's assumed that he's kind of mythical, but I'm just... he's such a deep character, and I love him, and he's so mysterious, and I have to learn more! And of course, the ending was quite good. However, there were some parts I disliked. I felt like the remedy for the situation in Dreamland seemed a little too quick. With like getting everyone unfrozen and getting Elfo out of heaven. I just felt like that might have been better if they had spread it out a little bit more. And I feel like when Bean isn't around, sometimes the writers don't really know what to do with Elfo and Lucy. Not that I didn't like their interactions, in fact, I really liked some of their storylines, but it just seemed superfluous. Like, I wouldn't have the show without them, but I feel like there could have been better ways to work them into the plot. And I hate that I have to wait like a year for the 3rd season. That makes me sad. Sad. Oh yeah, Merkimer's back. I didn't really mention him because he's though that actor was in the What We Do in the Shadows series. He was one of the vampires, and he literally sounded exactly like the voice he does for Merkimer, so I was like, yes! But anyways, I hope you've enjoyed my video and found it helpful. I don't need to remind you how passionate I am about this show. And yeah, I would just highly recommend it. I think it might be beaten Futurama for me, I'll be honest. I know, that's like blasphemous to say Futurama is one of my most favorite shows ever. In fact, I have a backpack for Futurama now. It's all the way downstairs and I don't want to like run down, but I'll show it in a future video, in a Futurama video. But yeah, I put that out there, that might be a hot take, I don't know. But yeah, anyways, remember to like and subscribe. Bye!
Do you believe in kissing, honey? You bet I do. Well, I believe in kissing, honey, when the moon is new.
So as many of you know, I am a citizen of the USA. and currently our country is suffering from a crisis at the border. Immigrants seeking asylum in the U.S. are being detained. Families are being separated and kept in detention centers in horrible conditions. All of it is scary and horrible, and a bit hard to come to terms with. So until things start getting better, I'm placing this message at the end of all of my videos to try to use what little influence I have to bring awareness and help. There are a number of things you can do to help. One of the simplest things is to donate to Immigrant Families Together, who are fundraising money to pay the bonds of detained immigrants and also provide necessities to families such as hygiene products, food, and shelter. This organization is also looking for volunteers. You can also take direct action by calling your state's government's officials and try to make your voice heard, and also refuse to let your taxes go to fund these facilities. There are many groups online that are looking for help to make sure these people are treated like human beings and receiving the help they desperately need. Let's prove that there is still hope for humanity and help solve this crisis in the most humane way possible. Remember, showing kindness isn't political. It's just the right thing to do. Thank you.